dredge the rivers on the Somerset Levels to alleviate flooding. He was responding to a question by the Taunton MP, Jeremy Brown.
I can confirm that dredging will start as soon as it is practical, as soon as the waters have started to come down. Now, the Environment Agency are pumping as much water as is possible, given the capacity of the rivers around the levels, but I've ordered that further high-volume pumps from the DCLG's National Reserve will be made available to increase the volume of the pumping operation as soon as there's capacity in the rivers to support that.
Prime Minister Day today. Well, how have the flooded Somerset villagers reacted to those words from the Prime Minister? Clinton Rogers is in the village of Moorland for us now. Clinton, what have people been saying? Oh, you're up to your knees again.
Surprise, surprise. Somebody passed by just a couple of minutes ago and I'll tell you exactly what he said. We'll believe it when we see it. As you say, you can see the water is still here. This is the road that leads into Moorland, still covered in about a foot of water. Look, the water is still lapping around people's houses and in some case going inside. Do you know there's a real feeling here of, did the Prime Minister actually say that? Because the Environment Agency are consistently saying dredging isn't the answer, or at least not the entire answer. We had the Secretary of State here just a couple of days ago saying, well, we won't promise dredging, but we'll come up with a plan in 6 weeks. And then suddenly the Prime Minister says this. So you can understand people are thinking, what is going on? I was in the isolated village of Muchelney, which we've been calling an island for the last month, when the Prime Minister made his announcement in the House of Commons.
Now the Prime Minister has promised to dredge the rivers on the...
The news was required viewing in the marooned village of Muchelney this afternoon.
I can confirm that dredging will start as soon as...
The Prime Minister's sudden promise to do what people here have been demanding for years was greeted with surprise and some scepticism.
Well, they could argue that they dredged last year. I think they did it for about a day, didn't they?
Muchelney is still cut off. Each of the 4 roads leading into the village underwater, undrivable, unless you have the right vehicle. Today, the Red Cross moved in with this, a specialist truck capable of operating in up to 1.5 meters of water. And today, it was delivering much-needed heavy supplies like logs and coal.
Brilliant. We're all running out of all the sort of basic essential forms of heating. So this is just fantastic, really. Really fantastic.
And so today, action both on the ground and in the corridors of Westminster. But you know, there is a real sense of frustration here that it's taken 4 weeks of misery to get to this stage.
There's no doubt that the operation was in place because when the button was pressed, it happened practically instantly. So if that button had been pressed a bit earlier, it would have saved us all a lot of anguish.
So they've been in, the ambulance men have been in.
That's right.
And
It's been a worrying time for Bill Daniel. He needs a minor heart procedure and they were planning to pick him up in a specially adapted ambulance tomorrow. But all that changed when just 2 hours after we spoke to him, his wife had a fall. Suddenly, it's an emergency.
maybe a fractured hip, maybe. In a bit of pain.
So now both Bill and his wife off to hospital. The specially adapted ambulances made it in and out. They couldn't have done that a couple of days ago.
And we wish them both a speedy recovery. So, well, some good news for the people of the Somerset Levels to celebrate today. The Prime Minister making that announcement in the House of Commons, but they won't be celebrating too much because guess what? More bad weather is on the way. David.
Yes. Clinton, thank you very much for that. And of course, Ian will pick up on that shortly. Joining us now from London is the MP for Taunton Deane, Jeremy Brown. Thank you, Mr. Brown, for joining us. Some might think this is a bit embarrassing. Those affected have been asking for help for over a month. There's huge media interest and the Prime Minister's stepped up to it.
Well, I'm very pleased he stepped up to it. I would rather it had happened sooner, but I had the opportunity to ask him a question in the House of Commons earlier today, and I put it to him very clearly that people in that part of Somerset are suffering greatly from the severe flooding, and that we needed action now to address the current problems, and also a longer-term plan for trying to stop this happening in the future. And I have to admit, I was pleasantly surprised by how unequivocal the Prime Minister was in his response, his commitment to dredging to try and reduce the threat from flooding in the future, and also his commitment to bring in extra pumping capacity when the rivers can take that extra water to try and clear the floods sooner right now. So, you know, it was a very strong announcement by the Prime Minister. I was very pleased to hear it.
It was. I suppose
the residents that Clinton spoke to, of course, right to wait and see what happens, and I will be staying on the case along with other MPs from Somerset.
Can I ask, though, because we only have so much time, Mr. Brown, sorry to interrupt you, but is it the right thing to do? The Environment Agency is saying it isn't. There are other people who are saying, who are specialists in the area, it isn't, and yet it's what the locals want and it's what David Cameron wants. Who's right?
Well, there's a government emergency committee that's been looking at this, and residents on the Levels tell me that dredging is a big issue. The farmers tell me that, the residents tell me that. I'm not saying it's the only solution, but people seem pretty clear-cut that it is a solution. And I was very pleased that in response to my question in House of Commons today, the Prime Minister made that commitment.
And thank you for taking the time to talk to us as well, Mr. Brown.